Before I start this video, I feel like I need to address the elephant in the room. The room itself. I know I said I was gonna get evicted, and I definitely was, but I was fortunate enough to get run over by a bus. Like one of those tourist trolley buses they drive downtown, resulting in a massive payout. This is great news for me because I get to keep the room, but horrible news for you because now I get to make any video I want. I don't have to keep making videos that I hope might get views. I can now make anything I feel like because I've got that victim money. God bless reckless driving. Because of this opportunity, I figured it'd be fun to return to this channel's roots. Bad video essays.
Woo! Bad video essays! Yeah, roots!
When it comes to video games, I'm the most shallow man alive because I think that appearances are the most important thing. You could hand me the most incredibly crafted, story-driven game of all time, but if it looks like doo-doo, then I don't think I'll play the game. I know it's a bit hypocritical of me to place so much emphasis on how a game looks considering I look like I was drawn using a trackpad and MS Paint, but at least I look better than I did as a baby. I know it looks bad, but I promise that style was big in '99. I just feel like video games are a uniquely visual form of media in the same vein as film, and as such, there's an art to crafting and perfecting an art style for your game. An art style can be used to defy hardware limitations to help it stand the test of time and reflect the themes or overall tone of the game and make your game stand out from other titles in this genre. And yes, this is the exact order we'll be discussing these subjects because I write video essays like a high schooler. Back in the olden days of gaming's youth, photorealism wasn't really a possibility. This didn't stop game developers from trying to achieve realistic graphics, which resulted in a bunch of games that had the visual clarity of primordial soup and the haunting nature of an eldritch horror. We quickly discovered that adding too much detail sometimes made things terrifying to look at, which is true in real life too. It also made games age like a chain smoker. Take GoldenEye. In 1990 whatever, when this game was released, these were considered to be cutting-edge graphics. In comedy, what I'm doing is known as pausing for comedic effect. On YouTube, it's known as dragging out runtime. Really? Cutting-edge graphics. The only cutting edge I see now are the edges of these polygons. Jesus Christ, this is like a safety hazard. Now, compare this to something like Banjo-Kazooie or Mario 64, which arguably still hold up today. They intentionally avoid realism, meaning their character models don't end up looking like battery victims. I think this applies especially to 32-bit games like Symphony of the Night, which has no right looking as good as it does now as it did then. I also think pretty much every game released for the Game Boy is equally timeless, but I've been told that might just be a personal bias. Not really sure why though. You could argue that the more stylistic the games were, the better they held up. Wind Waker, Katamari Damacy, Okami, Jet Set Radio, all of these are incredibly stylized games and have aged like a fine wine, unlike Grand Theft Auto V, which aged like tepid milk. When the game first released, these graphics were incredible. They really nailed the look of Los Angeles, like how the people's faces don't move when they talk, and how the cars, look, I don't know, I didn't write this joke out. The point is, these graphics were killer at the time. I remember being 12 years old and thinking that these women were more attractive than real women, except I didn't play this game at launch, I played it 8 years later when the price finally dropped, and boy is my taste in women changed. In the 8 years since the game had come out, facial animations and textures had improved so drastically that the characters that had once been so mind-blowing looked a lot less groundbreaking and a lot more just regular broken. Part of this is because each generation of consoles brings us closer to replicating realism, making the previous generation's attempts look quaint at best and shameful at worst, but this really isn't a problem anymore. The difference between console generations is becoming less and less noticeable, so modern games are aging a lot better. Like, Rob Lowe better. The Last of Us 2 is a last-gen title and is still probably the greatest looking game on the market to this day. So, if we're able to make games with realistic graphics that hold up years after their release, why bother with art styles today? Because it's epic? And can serve to benefit the game as a whole by contributing to the overall tone of the game? And it's epic. When you're making a video game, especially one with some sort of theme or tone to it, art styles are borderline essential. If you're making a revisionist Western that romanticizes the American West, a realistic but idyllic art style is gonna do you wonders. A huge theme of RDR2 is disillusionment, which is ironic to say the least, but focuses on Arthur Morgan coming to the realization that maybe his days as an outlaw are coming to an end. Not because he's dying of a horrific respiratory disease, but because the West is coming to an end. And also the tuberculosis, that too. The romanticized art style portraying the beauty of the American West contrasts against the ugliness of the encroaching industrialization that comes with civilization, which directly pushes against Arthur's freedom as an outlaw. This stuff is carried in the narrative, but I would argue is elevated by the game's stylistic visuals. Art styles are also important for communicating the overall tone of the game too. Journey is the most beautiful game I've never played, but from what I can tell, the game thrives off of this feeling of quiet determination in the face of silent adversity. The tone of the game is very austere and, as such, has taken on a beautiful minimalistic style with simple textures and monochromatic color schemes. It's a fantastic example to remind us that you have to choose visuals that match the content of your game. High fantasy and adventure? Hell yeah, cartoon cel-shaded graphics will be great. Violence and war crimes? Maybe not. Look at Call of Duty 2003, the calliest of duties, and compared to Vanguard, the dudiest of duties. The only thing that's changed here are the quality of the graphics, but the grittiness of the visuals haven't changed in nearly 20 years. That's because Call of Duty's remained tonally consistent from sequel to sequel, but what if the tone of your games were to shift over time? Well, art styles can help portray that shift. Take Sonic the Hedgehog, for example. When he started out, he was this confident but lovable character who fought to protect woodland creatures. He wasn't that in 2006. Sonic went from being whoa to whoa and could contort his body into weird shapes like circles. Editor's note, he could do that before too, dumbass. Sonic became an edgier franchise during the 2000s and adopted an art style that reflected that tonal shift. Shadow the Hedgehog says damn and open carries. Can you imagine what this game would have looked like if they still used the 90s art style? Like this. He would have looked like this. You don't actually have to imagine. Even a game like Dark Souls, which chooses to pursue a more realistic style, incorporates this timeless, macabre, and grotesque look that helps the game age better and fits the tone, which I absolutely love. I don't love Dark Souls though, I really don't even like the game at all that much, but like I said, I'm solely driven by appearances, so I'd marry this game. Cuphead. Cuphead took the route of creating a 1930s cartoon-themed run-and-gun, and that 30s theme is entirely dependent on the game's art style. Imagine if the game didn't have the rubber hose character design and pencil-drawn animations. You actually do have to imagine this one. I'm not gonna animate an alternate Cuphead. It'd look lame though. This art style helps carry the theme of the game and also helps it stand out from other games in the genre. I don't know about you, but I thought that was a pretty flawless transition. There are a lot of RPGs out there. Probably too many if we're being honest with ourselves, and if you're looking to make a middling and forgettable RPG, your best bet is to go with the generic anime style, because nothing says stay away from me like anime. Don't get me wrong, when anime is done well, it can look wonderful, but there are so many games that look exactly like this that the market's become oversaturated to the point where I don't even care anymore. If you really want to make an interesting RPG, take a page from Paper Mario's book. This cutout collage art style is so cute and unique, and I love it. I have a hard time subjecting myself to turn-based RPGs that don't translate to pocket monsters in Japanese, but this game is a complete exception. You don't have to be an RPG to pull off visuals like this though. Yoshi's Woolly World and Kirby and the Rainbow Curse have such unique visual styles. I love the attention to details in Yoshi's Yarn or the clay textures in Kirby. By giving themselves the limitation of having everything on screen be made of craft supplies, the art directors had to become much more creative with what everything would look like and what it would be made from, which adds so much to this little game. I could also talk for hours about Kirby's art design. They always knock it out of the park. For how horrendous of a company Nintendo can be sometimes, they kill it in this department, and I really wish they would have released that Felt Earthbound game on the GameCube, because that is such a unique idea. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. It's not just Nintendo doing this though. There's some fantastic games in these styles coming from smaller studios, like Vocabulantis. This kind of visual is really hard though. I don't expect everybody to do this, because you don't have to go this far to make your game stand out at all. Minecraft, one of the most incredible games to be created by a horrible person in the last decade, is amazingly visually unique. It's super simple, it's just pixel art on blocks, but considering how many games have tried to copy this style and failed catastrophically just shows how well it's executed. Minecraft on Xbox, however, is a mark against God, but we don't need to talk about that. I'm short on my word limit, so now I'm just gonna throw out some games that I just think are neat.
Homie.
Return of the Obra Dinn is an insane game that looks like a 3D Game Boy hybrid, and I love it. Replaced is absolutely gorgeous, and I wish I knew how to describe it better. I think it's like some sort of pixel art, voxel art blend, and it's very reminiscent of the Dear God. And Unravel is a game with an art style that's as wholesome as the man who made it. You deserve better, friend. So, in conclusion, art is very cool. Sonic is cool, stickers are cool, and claymation is cool. I think it's because of art styles that video games continue to be one of my favorite forms of visual media, and I hope that as our ability to achieve photorealism increases, so does our desire to create unique and incredible art. But more importantly, more than anything else I've said today, I hope that nobody ever tries to create a marionette game, because that would just be terrifying. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a 1 o'clock bus to catch. I have to go outside to record this. I'm coming up. I want the world to know. This is a game, but what was that? I also think from what I can tell. Oh, where was I? Oh, I lost my spot. This is getting rough. Markiplier.